Greetings and salutations and a big warm welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast. Now today's episode is going to take us into the realm of quantum computing, a field that's not just about the future, but it's defining our present. We have two esteemed guests joining me today. I've got John Durcan from IDA Ireland and Dr. Juan Marino from IBM Research Europe and UK and Ireland. And together, they're going to shed light on how quantum computing, with its incredible potential, is set to revolutionise industries ranging for far and wide, from finance to life sciences, and how we're at a pivotal moment right now. The dawn of a quantum advantage era, where quantum computers are beginning to outperform their classical counterparts. And also, something I find particularly exciting is how Ireland is positioning itself as a global leader in this field. So my guest today will discuss the challenges, the immense opportunities, and also the outlook for quantum computing. So whether you are a tech enthusiast, a professional in the industry, or just curious about this groundbreaking technology, join us today because we're going to explore the quantum leap into computing's next frontier. Now, before we get today's guest on, it's time to give the sponsors of Tech Talks Daily a big shout out because, as you know, on this podcast, every single day I aim to demystify technology and share stories of how businesses are solving real-world problems in business, our life, and even world. Now, one of the things that I see time and time again is that legacy managed file transfer tools, or MFTs, are looking increasingly dated, and they lack the security that today's remote workforce now demands, especially in a world of hybrid working. So obviously, companies that continue relying on outdated technology put their sensitive data at risk. This is one of the many reasons why I have partnered with Kiteworks, which is the most secure MFT on the market today. Now, if you're saying, Neil, that's a pretty big claim, how can you say that? Well, Kiteworks MFT suite is FedRAMP moderate authorized, which means they're audited yearly and continuously monitored by a certified third-party assessor. So if you want to find out more and step into the future of secure managed file transfer with Kiteworks, simply visit kiteworks.com to get started. That's kiteworks.com to get started today. But now it's time to get today's guest on. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Ireland, where today's guests are waiting to join me. So a massive warm welcome to the show. We've got not one but two guests joining us today. To begin with, John, can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure, no problem at all. Thank you very much. My name is John Durcan. I'm the Senior Technologist at IDA Ireland. And for those who aren't aware, IDA Ireland is Ireland's foreign direct investment agency. And our focus is very much on helping attract companies into Ireland to do business here and grow their operations. And particularly a big focus on companies looking at developing research and development in Ireland. And that's really is a core part of it. My own background is in the area of computer science, machine learning, and AI. And within my current role within IDA Ireland, I very much focus on working with multinational companies on exploring new ideas for research and development and how Ireland as a country can help them and support them through grant aid supports and also interactions with collaboration in that areas. And my core areas of focus at the moment are in the areas of quantum, very relevant for today, AI, cybersecurity, and the rapidly evolving semiconductor sector as well. So quite a broad remit I have to look after.
Love that. And I think it was probably around about 2 years ago. I'm not sure if he's still there, or obviously it's a huge company, but I spoke to Shane Nolan from IDA. Is he still there?
Yes, he's still there indeed. Yes, he's still here.
Fantastic. And Juan, could you tell everyone listening a little about you and what you do too?
No, thank you. So, well, my name is Juan Bernabé Moreno. I have a very long Spanish name. I'm based in Ireland, so I count as one of the big companies that John managed to attract to the country. And I work for IBM. I'm the director for research for IBM Europe. I'm responsible for UK and Ireland. And we have 3 labs. We have a very big lab here in Dublin, and we have one in Hersley, another in Dasbury in UK. And also I lead the sustainability mission for IBM Research, which is a very, very beautiful undertaking. And what we do in IBM Research, we look after these particular technologies that John mentioned before. So we are obsessed with creating what's next in computing, so the future of computing. And obviously, we are very known by our progress in quantum. So we are also advancing our Gen AI roadmap. And we are pushing the multi-cloud agenda, so the hybrid cloud and multi-cloud agenda. And also we are developing, are establishing many, many standards in semiconductors as well. So we have a full overlap with what John mentioned before.
Absolutely love it. Well, a huge warm welcome to both of you to the podcast. And if you spend long enough looking up quantum computing on the internet, you go down a fair few rabbit holes. It will mean different things to different people. Certain people will even say that quantum computing or genuine quantum computing doesn't even exist yet. So to set the scene and ensure we leave nobody behind, it's a big question, this, and it will probably get a highly engaged audience out there. What exactly is quantum computing, would you say?
Well, in simple terms, right? Quantum computing is like leveraging quantum mechanics, quantum physics to perform computations. But what we are talking here is like leveraging atomic particle to really do some computing. And quantum computing is not, it's taken some traction in the last probably 5 years or even 10 years. But quantum information theory was something that was worked on 40 years ago, something like that. Right? So we started establishing the basics, doing our first experiments. And if you think of computing, there are two elements that are very important. First of all, the physics and the science of the computing, and then the engineering part. So the wiring and the making these things happen. And the reason why we have quantum computers today is because we really managed to bring these two disciplines together. And we leverage the skills that we had building chips and building big systems. And it was very, very handy when we started putting together the first qubits to really perform these computations. Maybe three things that are different from quantum computing and classic computing. One is instead of storing the information bits, and bits are binary, so you have one or zeros. In a quantum computer, you have what we call qubits or quantum bits, and they can be kind of in the space between 1 and 0, right? And that's the beauty of that. You are not constrained to 2 states, so you have a way more playground. Second, it allows for go extremely parallel in computations, which means that we can use this technology to really attack problems that were intractable before because of the computing power that you need to do that. And this way of approaching these problems is very, very important. It's what's making what's putting all the hopes in what we can reach with quantum computing. And then third, and I think this point is important, it's not an either or. It's not classic or quantum. Actually, I don't think that we can use quantum computing without classic computing, because the data, the world of information today is made with bits, and the data that we store is in bits. And what we do is we can use quantum computing to perform some computations, but the input is classic and the output is classic, because you need to really use the results after the computations. I think that's very important, and not for all types of problems quantum computation is better. Let me give you a very simple example. Multiplication. If you want to do a multiplication in a quantum computer, it's not efficient. So probably it can be done, but it's not going to be quicker. It's not going to be better. And the other way around, the inverse operation, right? If you do a factorization, that you have a number And do you want to find two numbers, multiply it, giving this number, this proper number? It's factorization. Quantum computers, they are like a naturals for this kind of operations. And you might think, well, it's interesting, but why does it matter? If you think of cryptography today, cryptography is based on the fact that factorization is very complicated, right? It's very difficult to crack a particular key, trying to figure out what the factors are, because classic computers cannot reach that or cannot do it in a reasonable time. But remember what I just said, right? Quantum computers, they can, and they do it like that, right? Obviously, they need to evolve a bit, but it gives you an idea of the relevance of this type of computation. Sorry, I think I've given a bit pretty long answer.
No, I think that detailed answer is what's required, and I think just defining exactly what it is will help people demystify it a little as well. And of course, for business leaders listening, the big thing for them are, okay, what do we do next? How do we use this to generate business value? So the next stage would be, I suppose, is what are the biggest challenges in developing and implementing quantum?
We often see companies looking at this now as a new emerging technology. We've generative AI is out there at the moment, which is very much the talk, and there a lot of focus is on that. But trying to encourage companies to start exploring the potential and the benefits of quantum, that's going to be a challenge. And just getting that conversation onto some of the business leaders and to put it on their agenda and onto their research and development roadmaps. I think, it's really difficult as a concept for many to understand and see the value that's in it. So I think a large awareness around the potential of that and some good use cases that companies will develop over time. And I think, that's something we've seen IBM do very successfully with a number of their clients. And that those type of getting the awareness out there, show what the potential was in that area. And then within the research area as well, there's a lot of challenges to do. So noise reduction, what does that mean? Some of the challenges within that, how does that deal with it? And we're starting to see as well more research now going in onto the software applications of quantum. So again, theoretically, it's been there. We've seen the physical building of quantum computing, but then how are you going to develop the software that's going to run on that? What does that look like, and some of the challenges there? So from a very high level and from a business perspective, and I suppose from a policy perspective, there'd be some of the challenges that I would see within that.
No, exactly. Just to add one aspect that's very, very particular to the quantum technology, right? The theory is more advanced than what we can do with the machine today, and that's created a bit of shall I wait? Shall I start investing in that? Shall I develop the skills? But last year, by the end of last year, we entered into what we call the era of quantum utility. What's that? Is for the first time, the experiments run on real quantum hardware, right? Applying some error mitigation techniques. For the first time, these experiments, they were beating the state of the art that you could do classically. So we knew that on paper already, right? But given the maturity of the hardware, it's taking many years to come to this point. But now that we've crossed this, we've entered the quantum utility era. We are very excited because we have something that could already provide some utility in particular areas. For example, we've done that the first time in a magnetization problem. We had the University of Berkeley trying to come up with the best classic method, and the quantum implementation showed way better results. There are many, many more coming. So this era of quantum utility is gonna, to us, is gonna push also the adoption. And another point in the history that for us is very important, which is 2029. In 2029, we have a roadmap that we follow, right? In 2029, we are gonna have error correction in our machines. Error correction is something that classically we've been doing forever. so that you can really rely on the information after the calculations or computations. But in quantum, it's something very difficult to implement because of this nature of the states. And we are working on that, and by 2029, we are going to have that, which means it's like you can really have a really reliable, full-fledged quantum computer by that time. And well, we cannot be more excited.
And we will have people listening from multiple different industries out there. So a question I've got to ask you, which sectors do you think are going to use and mostly benefit from quantum if we look across there? Are there some use cases in other sectors more than others? What are you seeing here?
Yeah, so what we would see at the moment within, particularly I suppose from IDEA, we have clients across all of the sectors, as you can imagine, here in Ireland. One of the big areas that we see the early adopters has been in the fintech sector. We've seen that there. And for example, at the moment, Fidelity Investments in Ireland has their director of quantum based here in Ireland, and they're looking at exploring those challenges that's coming down the road. MasterCard is another example who started to do some work in this, and really interesting the options around collaboration that we see across all the sectors. And one of the big things in IDA that we're very much focused around and looking with our clients is to understand what other opportunities that we see. And life sciences is a particular one too. We see on there is around drug discovery and also chemical compounds. What could the potential for quantum really add for this? And obviously, of course, the deep one is around cybersecurity. So we see that there around the risk that's coming into it. We've heard about how quantum encryption, what does that look like? We've had in the US the new standardizations of quantum encryption and looking at different techniques around that. What does that look like? They will start to roll out. So there's a lot of research and opportunities in all of those areas. Our initial feeling here in Ireland that we've seen at least has been very much fintech will probably be the early adapters, along then within the life sciences communities that will be there. So that's from a business perspective, that's what we're starting to see.
No, exactly. And maybe it's also related to the maturity or the curiosity of these players, but also to the fact that with quantum, we can tackle very particular problems. As John mentioned, life sciences means that probably if you had the mean to really simulate the nature as it is, right? So instead of mapping that to a classic computer and trying to really do some approximations, and that's actually one of the probably the biggest hope for quantum. You can simulate nature, and simulating nature is critical to understanding the structure of new materials and the structure and behavior of new drugs. And there are many examples of quantum simulation efforts. Healthcare, life sciences, material discovery, and there are kind of two key ones. At IBM, what we are trying to do is we are trying to work in working groups where we bring also industries willing to explore that, universities and so on. And we try to really explore this. What does it mean to be in a position of doing quantum simulation? The same goes for optimization. Optimization is going to be another one. And optimization in finance, as John mentioned, is going to be very critical. But there are more, right? With quantum, the beauty is like you can really explore and uncover structures in the data that you cannot do physically, right? Classically, which means that also to understand your information, to gain a competitive advantage in particular areas. That's another one. So but the good thing is like these industries, they are very receptive now. And given these big dates that we mentioned before, and now they can really plan even for that.
And we've seen a well-documented lack of cybersecurity people and lack of tech skills right across the industry. I'm curious, what is the current talent base for quantum software development teams? What are you seeing here?
So in Ireland, this is an area we've had a bit of a look at recently, and I suppose it's definitely a challenge around software developers in any aspects of it. And you've already called out two huge gaps that are there. So what we've done at the moment, and what we're currently in the process of doing, is we've had a look, I suppose, what does Ireland do as a country within its capabilities, and we see that Currently, software development industry is worth about 61 billion in Ireland as of 2023, so quite significant. And we're the second largest within the EU for that. And out of that, there's 33,000 software developers here in Ireland. So a huge amount that's there. And what we're targeting is thinking about if you even achieve 1% of software developers to move into the world of quantum, all right? So you'd have a few hundred software developers, and that in turn, they will kickstart the initial piece of starting to use software and to explore that and see what the opportunities are. And within that, we've worked closely within our research communities here to develop a quantum program initiative, and this has been led out by the Irish Centre for High Computing, or ICHEC as it's called. And its focus has been very much about developing an ecosystem and software system around that to help, develop the first generation, let's call it, of software programming and capabilities within it. And equally, we've had then as well, you need the tool sets that go along with that to support software developers, because that's going to be important. And we have a very interesting company called Horizon Quantum Computing. So they're based in Singapore, but they've opened up their new European base out of Dublin. And they're very much developing an IDE to help support traditional software developers, such as like C or C++ developers, to be able to work in the quantum world. And I think we're going to start seeing a growing amount of that too, is how do you develop tools that help traditional software developers be able to program on quantum? So you'll have two. You'll have the deep expertise of programming quantum, which will be required, and then also tools that will layer on top of maybe traditional methodologies that will help software developers to write quantum. And I think it's probably going to be a mixture of that. The initial phase will be the deep diving experts, and then later on will be the more mass production of quantum based on using IDE tools and software tools that come out of it. So that's kind of the focus that we're seeing within that. And that's how we're looking at from an Ireland perspective of leveraging the skills that we currently have here and some of the advantages with particularly the client bases who are there, and in partnerships with the likes of IBM to explore what could be done and how to drive that agenda down the road. But it's going to be a big challenge, as you said. There's a global competition for it, but it's one that we're very actively in trying to support here in Ireland to really push that on to the next level of software developers.
Yeah, that's essential. That's really essential. The way we thought of that is like we thought the proper workforce is going to be very, very difficult to adopt quantum, because quantum is not basis technology to really quick. You really need the proper education, right? And as John said, we can't really transfer some of that skills from other fields. But I think there are elements that are critical. First, I think is to give access to a quantum computer, because otherwise, I mean, you can work on simulators, but it's very different. And something that we did in 2016 is we really opened up cloud access to our quantum computers so hosted in the States. But at this, we created the possibility of working directly on matching. Second, the way that you program a quantum computer, instead of coming up with something different, we rely on Python, which is a standard in the software community, right? And we created an open source toolkit called Qiskit. Qiskit has become the standard for that. But probably it's not enough. So what we've been doing is like we've been providing access through Qiskit, and we have more than 500,000 registered users in our networks. And we've been also very engaged through many universities to provide education to, we assess 8 million people already through 700 universities in many classrooms. So that's how we want also to engage to really incentivize the community, right? But we see more and more that quantum is a standard part of offerings of universities, which is very, very, I mean, it's great compared with 10 years ago, for example.
And I think what stands out, possibly even more than the technology itself, is the role of the country of Ireland, the people of Ireland that are making this such a huge success. And you mentioned a stat a few moments ago, John, about the second largest in Europe, which is a huge achievement. So how has the quantum space in Ireland developed? And what do you think it is that makes Ireland so successful when it comes to quantum?
So it's a really, I suppose, building on the success over the previous years of attracting a huge amount of foreign direct investment in the technology sector in particular. And that has really been through a few aspects of that was talent, easy movement of people across the EU into Ireland to help really expand out that, because as a small country, we don't have the population to support all of the demands that's there. So being very open economy, encouraging companies to come in, and really what we've prioritized over the last number of years in Ireland is the moving up in the value chain into more levels of R&D. And what that does is it attracts equally then more people to come in because they want to try the new things, they want to explore that, they want to work with all of the best companies in the world, and they get an opportunity to really do that now in Ireland within that. So that has really helped drive it. And we see from talking with companies that talent attraction is a really big driver for them to do their R&D now out of Ireland. The other nice thing that we've seen is, and this is very much, I suppose, a drive that we've seen with AI and it will come into quantum, is the cross-fertilization of sectors. So, traditionally you were in the life sciences or traditionally you were a software company. And now we're seeing the merger of those sectors. So you have to have expertise in different areas. And what's really attractive for companies in that side is they say, well, look, there's deep expertise in AI or emerging quantum now in Ireland. And I'm a life science company. I need to build up my software capabilities. Oh, I come to Ireland now and I can attract people to come in and try something new. And in the software industry, people like to move. They build up the expertise and they move on somewhere and then they try that. And within Ireland, I suppose what we've really focused in on here is also starting to look at building the infrastructure for quantum. So as part of the European Quantum Communication Infrastructure, or Euro QCI, Ireland has set up its Ireland Quantum Communication Infrastructure. And this has been driven out of the Walton Institute down in the southeast of Ireland, a place called Waterford. And the aim of this is that it will build a national quantum infrastructure that companies, both that industry and research, will be able to leverage to start exploring the world of quantum communications and what does that mean. And having a core piece of infrastructure like that is really important for attracting, again, companies in and people and researchers, because there's physical infrastructure that will be available for that. And also it'll tie into the broader European projects as well, which again is really powerful within those elements that's there. And what we've also seen, which has been quite interesting, is around in the area of, for example, Equal One is a startup company here in Ireland. And they've been focusing on trying to understand around scalability and cost effectiveness of quantum computing technology, but based on silicon semiconductor processes. So it's an interesting approach. They're trying different approaches on quantum and that. And I think starting to see those startup companies coming on board as well is really interesting. And it's more difficult, I suppose, in quantum for startups to get involved. There's higher costs, etc. But that nice mixture as well of SMEs and startups working with the FDI companies in Ireland is a sweet mix. And I think we're starting to see that grow really and continue to grow from that perspective. And like I said, with the strong software expertise here, strong AI expertise here, and a really now focus on core deep tech research and development, I think we have all of the ingredients, let's call it like that, that we can mix them together that will continue to grow this sector and really help to drive on the early adoption of quantum within Ireland. And that would be our aim. And we want to support companies as much as possible as we can in any way.
Absolutely love that. And if we look back over the last few years, we've seen a global pandemic change everything in 2 years. We've seen working from home at scale, hybrid working. And then it only took something like 15 months for Gen AI to change how everybody works. So I think with all that in mind, what happened there in 3 years, looking to the next 5 years has almost become impossible to predict. The world is a crazy place right now. But if we were to hypothetically look to the next 5 years, what is required for the quantum space to thrive, do you think?
I think I'm going to take this one because for us in research, it's very atypical to announce what we are going to be doing. So to come up with a roadmap. In the case of quantum, given that we want also to incentivize people to embrace that, so we've been very specific. We've been coming with a roadmap for the last years, and we've been hitting our milestones, and we've done the same. I think what's going to happen in the next 5 years is going to change everything. again. It's like, why? Because as I said, right, this year is going to be quantum utility. So quantum utility. So we're going to have many companies, institutions exploring how to leverage the existing hardware that we have, right, and how to gain advantage in particular problems, right? How to make this quantum computing capability that we have today useful, right, versus the classic one. It's going to have a very particular effect. It's going to also, push the classic computing, because they're going to try to beat the implementation style in classic. And we are going to see kind of a race a bit, and this race is going to be very beneficial for many domains, right? Now, what we will need to do is we will need to deliver modularity, so that everything we can really start moving away from counting how many qubits, right, and embracing how many operations you can do at which level of quality. And in 2029, I hope that we are going to see the beginning of a new era, the era of quantum error correction, which is going to, every single company who has invested in quantum can then really leverage everything in a very productive and commercial setup. So it cannot be more exciting, right? And we are talking about 5 years. I mean, 5 years now is probably a long time, but 5 years, a couple of decades ago, was a very short period of time. Yeah.
And I would think as well, it's equally important for governments to be supportive of companies to help them develop that. So, for example, in Ireland, we just had the launch of our national quantum strategy, which outlines a vision for helping companies on this 5-year journey. Then how will that look like? And a lot of supports as well from an Irish government perspective that we do within IDA Ireland in particular is helping R&D and funding that, training supports and upskilling to help them meet into this, to help the quantum space thrive and grow. And then equally as well, investment then in from both private and government to help stimulate and drive the next changes that comes out. What will be the next breakthroughs? Where will that come from? And supporting companies on that journey is a really important part. And within IDA Ireland, we really want to collaborate with all of our companies and companies who might want to move to Ireland for the first time to start exploring quantum. We're there to really support and drive that R&D agenda. We want Ireland to really lead out in this aspect and become a driving force for supporting companies and encouraging future growth that will spur on the next generation of what the breakthroughs will come with quantum. And within that, that's really is very supportive piece, I think, from government, from the European side as well, and European level. The coordination of investing in that will be important as well from a European perspective to drive that support. And we're starting to see it globally as well. The US and China are equally investing in quantum. So very exciting space, so much to come. And I know in my line of work, every day it's like, oh, something's changed. What's that? I have to learn it. I'm really excited to see what quantum is going to bring, because I'm sure it'll be a lot of change for us all.
And my takeaway from both your answers there is if you feel that the speed of technological change is moving too fast at the moment, we all need to wake up. It's never going to move this slow again. It's only going to keep moving faster. And with that, of course, comes an almost pressure on all of us to be in a state of continuous learning. So as two people right in the eye of the storm here, and Juan, I'll ask you first, where or how do you self-educate?
Well, you might be surprised, or you might not be surprised, but I'm a big fan of a podcast. So because if I'm very honest, right, you really need to carve out time to upskill and reskill, and this time is very precious. And as you said, right, things are changing at such a pace that is very important to. I mean, when I drive to my working location, I always have some YouTube, podcasts about technology. Sometimes it's difficult to follow because they discuss pieces of code and you cannot do it in the car yet. But that's how I keep pace, and I'm very 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 lucky that I work in research. So I grab a coffee with some of my colleagues, and they have brilliant minds, and I always learn something.
Yeah, podcasts can be incredibly helpful in those kind of situations during that dead time, whether it be a commute, walking your dog, doing household chores. You can just learn stuff on the go. And John, what about yourself?
Well, very similar to that. And I think I'm in a really lucky position within my role is to be able to work with so many brilliant companies like Juan and the team there. So a lot of my learning is actually going out and talking to all of the CTOs from global companies, understanding what are they seeing coming down the road, meeting the great research opportunities that are there. The research lab that IBM, for example, has, a research center, is really important to see what the trends are coming and who are they working with and what are some of the challenges. And I do a lot as well with the whole research community in Ireland, with the going into the research centres through the universities, meet with them on a regular basis. What are you doing, and so on. Podcasts, live for podcasts. That's definitely one of my ones. Yours in particular, I listen to quite a lot. and I also then I also find as well social media and TikTok has been great for snippets, because when you curate it a lot now, you can get, like, a lot of domain experts are now putting on small clips about what they're working on or trends they've seen. And I find that great idea just for idea generation and gathering. And if you tailor it, it can work out for us. And then, of course, then the big piece then too is using generative AI to help me summarize a lot of the documents and things that are coming out. And that's what I'm really excited about at the moment. So yes, the world is changing more rapidly. Yes, there's a huge amount of learning to do, but the tools are, funny enough, also starting to come out now to help you. And so it's a real mixture. And for me, it's a continuous learning journey. So any new tool, any new platform that helps me learn, I actively am engaging with it.
Absolutely love it. And I'm honored to have you as a listener of my show as well. And for anyone listening, like, maybe want to find out more about IDA Ireland, and they want to dig in a little bit deeper on some of the topics we discussed today, contact you or your team, where would you point everyone listening, John?
So the best thing to do is go to our website from IDA Ireland, and in there you'll find all information around the organization, what it does, all the contact details that are there. People can look me up on LinkedIn. I'm always open to connections, and particularly as well, keep an eye out as well for activities and events that we broadcast on it. And I'd say follow the IDEA Twitter account, for example, where we publish new and releases and things that are happening, and it'll give you a flavour of the broad activity that's happening here in Ireland. It's a very exciting time across all sectors. We have a huge amount going on in semiconductors and in quantum and generative AI. So if you're really into tech, I'd suggest keep an eye on the announcements coming out of Ireland. Well worth it. You'll always be up to date on everything.
Sounds like a little teaser there. Right, I will make sure I am following you for sure, and I hope everyone listening does. And of course, IBM is a huge website, and anyone wanted to find out more information about what we talked about today, IBM Research Europe, etc., where would you like to point everyone for that?
Well, I mean, just Google IBM Research and be aware of all the content coming and how we are creating the future of technology.
Excellent. Well, I'll add all the links to the show notes so people can find you nice and easily. And I think in just 30 minutes, we somehow managed to demystify quantum computing, defined exactly what it is, talked about some of the challenges in developing and implementing quantum, and also which sectors are going to use it most. And we covered so much more as well. But more than anything, just a big, big thank you to both of you for helping bring this topic to life today in a way that, in a language that everyone can understand. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure for having us.
So as we conclude today's enlightening conversation with today's guest, I think it's clear that quantum computing isn't just a scientific marvel, but a beacon for future innovations almost, because their insights have painted this vivid picture of a world where problems once deemed intractable are now actually within our grasp, all thanks to the power of qubits and quantum parallelism. But this journey into quantum computing is just the beginning, and with Ireland poised to play a crucial role in this global narrative, it feels like there's exciting times ahead. And the next 5 years promise an explosion of quantum use cases, advancements in qubit quality, and a race of innovation between quantum and classical algorithms. So I thank today's guests for sharing their invaluable perspectives. And also, this podcast is never about just me and the guests. It's about you. I want you to ponder the limitless possibilities that quantum computing holds and let me know your thoughts. We only have 20, 25 minutes to talk about this stuff on this show. And I want to save a bit of time to ask you on your thoughts, on your takeaways, anything we missed, etc. So as always, email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, just @NeilC.Hughes, and we'll keep this conversation going. So together, let's continue to push the boundaries of what's possible, keep our eyes on that quantum horizon, and maybe, just maybe, you'll join me again bright and early tomorrow. But thank you for listening as always, and until next time, don't be a stranger.